How much is enough? When will we reach it? I thought I knew the answer until everything I built ended overnight. Hi, I'm Yukes. I'm 32, and I'm on what I call an adult gap year. This is the story of how I redefined enough and what changed when I finally went back to China on my own terms. If you've ever dealt with the weight of family expectation, this one's for you. When I was 18, just before I started college at Harvard, my parents and I went back to China to visit family. I got paraded around like a trophy. I felt so disconnected and bored that I avoided going back to China for 13 years. But for my immigrant dad, this trip was proof he'd made it. From a poor mountain village to the American dream. Fast forward, I'd built what looked like the dream life. A six-figure tech career in London. I was even starting to imagine a long-term life there. But even with success in London, my parents weren't satisfied. The American dream was so specific, even a great job abroad wasn't enough because it wasn't in America. Every conversation was the same. Come back to the US. I always said no. I had a life, I was making friends, I was traveling. So what if my job wasn't all that fulfilling? Then I got laid off. And suddenly, that dream ended. I moved back in with my parents in the US and started rethinking everything. I wasn't giving up, but I needed to find a way to make money outside of the 9-to-5. Life in this locked-in phase looks different than you might expect. During the day, I'm grinding on YouTube, making videos, but I also have chores like letting out the chickens in the middle of the day. But the most unexpected, most precious part of this time is seeing my parents and my little brothers every day. You know, my relationship with my parents wasn't always close. There was a time when I felt feral living at home, kinda trapped. But now, it's different. I read with my little brothers every day. I know this won't last. Soon, my little brothers won't care if I'm around. They'll have their own friends they'd rather talk to. And I get to spend time with my parents. When I first moved home, my dad asked every day if I'd started looking for a job. And I said, no, I've been working on YouTube. And I really wanted to make a go of it. So he said he would stop asking if I'd found a job if I could make $500 off YouTube. So I did. And then he moved the goalposts, which made me realize this wasn't about the money. It was about proving that I could make enough. And his definition of enough? I had to earn more than him. Here's what's really behind all those conversations about jobs with my dad. He immigrated to America in his 30s. He just wants to see me doing better than him. And here's the thing, I don't even feel pressure from him anymore. I've realized that it's his job to tell me he wants more from me, and it's my job to ignore that. And he even tells me this. He even says, it's my job to tell you that I want more from you. It's up to you whether or not you'll listen. That's what makes this time so special. Even my dad, who brings up that I should be looking for a job, will backtrack. Because sometimes I'll say, okay, I will go look for a job in London. And he'll say, actually, you don't need a job. Being at home, that's pretty nice. And he'll tell my brothers, tell her not to leave. So my brothers will agree, don't leave. Your job is to read to us. My parents wanted me to move back to the US for a long time. And now that I'm here, there's this clash. Being at home is so comfortable, I don't even want to travel anymore. But I also know that when I do move out of this house, I'll probably go somewhere far away. So yeah, this is a special time. And I don't take it for granted, because I know it's not going to last forever. And facing that reality also came with confronting some old memories, especially when it comes to family expectations. Remember in the beginning when I said I was paraded around family in China when I was 18 to show off where I'd gotten into college? Well, I made a return trip last year after 13 years away. No job, no husband, and living with my parents. So what changed between that first trip and this one? This trip was different. I was booking the flights. We were going to China on my terms. I wanted to overcome that memory I had of being trapped at family functions with nothing to say. Plus, I had this newfound value on family, and I knew that my grandma wouldn't be around forever. My grandma was just so happy to see us. She didn't even mention job stuff. Honestly, I think she just didn't want to say anything that might stop us from coming back. When I asked her when we should visit next, she said something like, "I'm afraid to say, I don't dare to hope." Honestly, it was so sad, I kind of blocked it out. So she didn't bring anything up. But imagine this, uncles and cousins who've all gotten married and have kids wondering about you. Sometimes at a family gathering, somebody would ask, "Is she 啃老?" 啃老is a Chinese term that literally translates to gnawing at the old, basically living off your elders. But actually, I paid for my entire family's trip to China. I was the reason we could have this reunion. That made everything feel different about this trip. Whenever I got asked if I was 啃老, my mom would jump in to add that I used to live in London and that I had invited them to China. It's harder to call someone a failure when they're funding the reunion. That's the thing about these family reunions. When you go to China, you have to splash around money a little to show that you've made it. If you're an immigrant child and your dynamic is like mine, then I'd say it's helpful not just to save up for unemployment, but also for family stuff. A lot of advice is about following your dreams and ignoring family judgment. I don't think it's realistic to just ignore your family, and it's not realistic to submit to their expectations either. Here's what I've learned. Figure out your family's currency of respect, get some of it, and then you can have the real conversations. In Chinese culture, when you invite your family on a trip, you're showing you can take care of people. And that's a language of respect. Every family is different, but learning to work with the system instead of against it, that can apply to anyone. So if you've dealt with family judgment too, I'd love to hear how you've handled it. Drop it in the comments below. Your take could help somebody else watching this video. That trip to China reaffirmed the importance of family to me, of having people who are just happy to see you, whose only wish is that you visit more often. And that made me rethink what it meant to be enough. Now, I had over a year's worth of savings that made this trip possible. I know not everyone can step off the treadmill like this, but for those of us who can afford to step off the treadmill but still choose not to, I think the bigger barrier is permission. I had to give myself permission to be unemployed and still be okay. And even with savings, I still get a little triggered when somebody asks me, "So how long you think you're gonna do this?" A lot of content is out there about people who don't know what they want and are finding themselves. But I think we also know what we're drawn to. We just might not accept that it's acceptable or can't figure out a way to fund it. Here's how I've redefined success. A life that I don't want to escape from. My dream life is pretty simple. I want to move to London and write a novel, and I can't do that yet. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and wonder, did I throw away a good life? I see YouTubers moving to London and I think, that was me. I could have just found another job and kept working on YouTube on the side. But instead, I made it harder. I walked away from the life that I built in London. On a visa, every year counts towards settlement. Now that clock starts over for me. But you know what? I'm here now. I can only move forward from the choices that I've already made. My parents' biggest worry isn't just about my career. They're worried that I'm not moving forward in life. Even when I had a job abroad, it wasn't enough for my dad, who wanted to see me settling down in the US. Now that I'm in the US, they still don't see me as progressing because I don't have a job. Even I have my own version of what it looks like to move forward. I've given myself until the new year, 6 months to figure it out. We don't need something traditionally meaningful. We can want to move to another country and read books all day. We can want slow, quiet lives, even if it doesn't look impressive on paper. If you're out there afraid of judgment, just know that judgment will come. If not from others, then from yourself, because you'll judge yourself for not pursuing the life you wish you had. What I hope to show with this channel is that you can live a full life and still build something incredible. 6 months from now, I'll either have proof that it works or I'll be back to a 9-to-5, but either way, I'll have tried. And that's the only way to find out what you're truly capable of. If you've ever wondered what would happen if you gave yourself permission to try something different, you're in the right place. Thanks for being here, and watch this next to follow the journey.